Dr. Shibin is a distinguished neurophysiologist and a faculty member at Christ University. After earning her PhD from NIMHANS, she has dedicated her career to understanding the mechanisms behind human behavior and decision-making. An active member of the Indian Academy of Neuroscience, she is currently pursuing the fascinating possibility of consciousness in unicellular life forms. Please welcome Dr. Nesin with a warm round of applause. Also, may I please request Dr. Sitakanta Panda, Assistant Professor, School of Humanities, Social Sciences and Management, IIT Bhubaneswar, to kindly chair this session.
So, welcome everyone. I welcome you all to this particular session in the International Conference on Thought, Perception and Reality. I welcome Dr. Nesin Mathew Shibin. Her topic is Dimensions of Consciousness in Organisms. It will be very interesting to listen to her. She is a neuroscientist and she has very fascinating perspectives to offer on various dimensions of internal consciousness in organisms. I welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Thank you, Professor Briggs, for this wonderful talk. And I take this opportunity to thank the organizers of this international conference on thought, perception and reality. The topic of today's discussion that I'm going to do is dimensions of consciousness in organisms. Dimensions of consciousness in organisms. All these three words are, you might have heard these words, all these three words which is there. Because science of philosophy, philosophy of mind is not new. It's there from very long period. In early Vedic period, in the late Vedic period, and Western perspective from 19th century, 20th century, 21st century. Here we are having a lot of discussions on the theory of mind, which apart from that, I think you might have heard a lot about philosophies, various philosophies from Western perspective, from Indian perspective, but during the similar time, there were a lot of progress that was happening in the neuroscience, in the medical physiology field. To mention a few, this is just a few important ones like Charles Darwin's publishing The Origin of Species, Paul Broca, the Broca's area, which emphasizes the localization of behavior. Like there were lesion studies that Paul Broca has mentioned that it's a lesion of a particular region, how it affects the behavior. Then Julius Bernstein's first recording came up in 1865. Then Golgi studied the staining studies, which I have used in my PhD also, that how neurons have been stained with this. I think yes, this is better. Yeah. So a lot of studies has carried out in the 19th century by cellular studies, and then later a lot of studies happened in the animals, like using cat model, dog models, etc. Pavlov, for example, or Sherrington, who coined the term synapse. Berger, who's published the first EEG, and James Pape, who mentioned the work on limbic circuit, etc. So this Skinner, definitely the behaviorism has arisen, and a lot of work has done on animal behavior, how it is similar to human behavior. Then come the Hodgkin and Huxley model of intracellular recording. First intracellular action potential was recorded in 1939. And from 1953, the Watson and Crick model of DNA, with the help of Rosalind Franklin's data, they formulated, they published a paper revealing the molecular structure of DNA. From 1950s onwards, 1960s and 70s, a lot of discoveries happened related to molecular biology, the protein structure. From that, the lot of drugs we have derived, which affect those as a psychotropic drugs, a lot of other medicines for communicative and non-communicative disorders. During that time, from last 50 to 60 years, was a golden era of neuroscience per se, and especially the cognitive science. And during that time, not only the diseases, we were looking into the translational aspect of it, but the fundamental basic research was going on. A lot of research was going on in cognitive neuroscience as well as in the consciousness. Especially from the last 30, 40 years, a lot of new theories have come up in the consciousness field, and the present data, this is like, it's pretty funny that we have around 350 different theories that talk about consciousness. And at one point of time, people were discovering a lot of particles before the standard model of atom came up. People were discovering a lot of particles, and somebody mentioned that we need to penalize anybody who discovered a new particle. Then the standard model of atom came up, and then we were clear that okay, all these particles that people have discovered are made up of either the standard model. So until and unless we clearly understand what is this that gives us the subjective experience, until that we definitely will have a lot of theories, and it's all good. And this is a recent paper which talks about a lot, how the different theories can be categorized under different under different names, like materialism theories, around 10 materialism viewpoints. Under that, a lot of works. Then there are non-reductive physicalism, quantum theories, integrated information theory, panpsychism, monism, dualism, idealism, altered state. Then we have a lot of studies on altered states, transpersonal studies, psychedelics, use of psychedelics. Then challenges, there are a lot of theories which talk about. So what is actually this consciousness? Where is this consciousness reside? Even each theory have different perspective. Some say that consciousness is fundamental. It's there present in the entire universe. It's very fundamental. Some theories states that it is quantum or atomic or subatomic level or subcellular. Some state that it is a property of the cell or living cell. Or some states that it's because of the neurons we have this consciousness, or certain brain circuits are necessary. Then the question comes like, okay, all brain is required or not for the consciousness, or is it the specific circuit that is necessary? Then there is a philosophical thought experiment that is very famous, that what about isolating the brain and keeping it inside a solution with all nourishment? Is the brain still be conscious? Then the animal body, do animal bodies require, definitely require input and possibility of outputs actually, and extended mind beyond. Some people say, some of the theories talk that the consciousness is outside the body. It is not, it's extended mind. And some say that it is in the entire cosmos is having that. So different theories, different perspective. But for a long period of time, people were not moving away from the thought that consciousness is only for human. But later people started to question that, is consciousness unique to human? Which led to a lot of discoveries later. Many of the animal behavior scientists started to investigate the behavior in organisms, other organisms, and that led to the question that if I am experiencing pain, why can't my dog experience pain in the similar manner? Of course, it may not be the same, but it doesn't negate the fact that the subjective experiences are present. So here, this is where my research thought actually started. I was working with rats during my PhD, and a close interaction with animal behavior I'm very interested. That's when I observed, I could see that a lot of animal behavior is similar to human, how they perceive. There was individual differences. If 5 rats were together in a cage, it's not that all of these rats behave in the same manner. There was individualistic variation, and how they learn, how they adapt to the situations varied. So here, so how an animal is reacting to the pain. Definitely, the animal will try to escape that. There was an aversive the nature towards the pain, and there will be definitely the organism will show some preferences attached to the rewarding stimuli. So how the organism behave to punishing stimuli or rewarding stimuli, what does that indicate? The organism may be having a subjective experience towards it. Take the example, another example of one of the very famous model organisms, C. elegans. It's a favorite model organism of scientists, especially molecular biologists, because it's very simple. It's a microscopic worm, nematode. It's only 1 millimeter in size, and number of new cells of this organism is being counted. Number of neurons are counted. It's around 302 neurons, and all the connections of these neurons are also mapped. This is called as a connectome, and here all the electrical synapses, chemical synapses, and neuromuscular junctions of these neurons are mapped. So this makes us to that's why we can learn that how neuron to neuron, the synapses, their interaction, how the neuroplasticity happens with learning, etc. This worm also, if you keep if you add a little bit high acid or alkaline medium to this organism, they will show some response. And there are beautiful videos of this behavior of this organism. What about, then the question comes that what about the subjective experiences in other organisms? What about a bacteria? So since I'm from the biology background, I knew that bacteria have this phenomena of movement, and movement is something which is very big adaptation happened in the evolution, history of evolution. This bacteria have a flagella, motile fab. There are two types of motile bacteria and non-motile bacteria. In the present WHO, when it releases the pathogenic bacteria, list of pathogenic bacteria, it was noticed that motile bacteria, there are a lot of motile bacteria in it, because motile bacteria have the advantage to escape from wherever it is. So even if we give antibiotics, the resistance increases because of multiple reasons. So this motile bacteria, if we give chemoeffector means a chemical which increases the motility, is acetylcholine, for example. Acetylcholine, the same chemical which is causing my muscle to contract, which help me to talk, which moves my hands. The same acetylcholine helps increases the motility of the bacteria. And what the scientists did is they use a gradient. Actually. This is a chemoattractant, glucose or galactose or whatever of this. This is Pseudomonas species they use. So the movement of this. So what the bacteria did was it identified that there is a favorable food and there is a gradient. There is an increased concentration over here, and they slowly move towards it. Okay. Same process they have done with the chemorepellents. Any chemical that is not favorable for this bacteria, they tend to move away from it. This is a image over here. Here there is no chemotaxis. This is called as chemotaxis. Movement of bacteria based on a chemical is called as chemotaxis. Here the chemoattraction, the bacteria is moving close towards wherever the favorable chemical is, and now the bacteria moving away from this. This made me to think that consciousness, probably we may get answer if we look deep inside the molecular mechanism, because that's how Eric Kandel discovered the molecular mechanism of memory. If we think memory, what is causing this memory? If we look into the neurons directly, then we know that probability of a neuron firing with the whatever input it reaches, what is the probability of that neuron fire? But what depends on it? The understanding of this came from the works from Eric Kandel, and he did experiments in sea slug aplasia, and this is a very famous one. I hope many of you might have read this. Okay, so here what he did was he used this a small siphon to touch a small brush to touch the siphon, and when the touch sensation reaches, the aplasia withdraw its gills. So this is simple sensory and a motor response. But what happens if you keep touching it, it becomes habituated. That's what happens when we wore the dress in the morning. We were aware about the touch of the fabric to our body. But now, until and unless I say that's now, you are not aware about the fabric touching your body. That's habituation. That means that stimulus is no longer response or eliciting a response in your body until unless you pay attention to that again. This paying attention is called as sensitization. So when I speak that, I actually elicited that response again, made you to sensitize that. So this similar like this, if you give a tail shock to the aplasia will become sensitized, it become active, it start to do again the gill will be withdrawn. We can do the classical conditioning on this. So the long-term potentiation, which is a model of our understanding on memory, started to arise from these studies. So I was thinking that probably memory, definitely we have a subjective experience related to memory, isn't it? When I ask you about your memories about your favorite food being cooked by your mother, you can experience, you can feel that, yes. So the memory is not away from the subjective qualia. All these works of made scientists to have the famous Cambridge Declaration on Consciousness in 2012 in the presence of great Stephen Hawking. So here Christoph Koch, David Edelman, Philip Law, all these scientists have together declared, I will just read the declaration. We declare the following: the absence of neocortex, the cortex that is responsible for our thought in mammals, the absence of neocortex does not appear to preclude an organism from experiencing affective states. Convergent evidences indicate that non-human animals have the neuroanatomical, neurochemical and neurophysiological substrates of conscious states, along with the capacity to exhibit intentional behavior. Consequently, the weight of evidence indicates that humans are not unique in possessing the neurological substrate that generate consciousness. Non-human animals, including all mammals, birds, and many other creatures, including octopus, also possess these neurological substrates. So this was a big giant leap for us. So then later people started, what about much more smaller organism? What about bacteria? Are they conscious? So there are a lot of microbiologists who know that there is individualistic behaviors in bacteria, colony behavior in bacteria. They are not like robots. They have that decision-making ability. They understand their environment, adapt to the environment. That's how they are surviving for millions of years. This led to the formation of cellular basis of consciousness theory by Professor Arthur Weber. And my studies are based on this, as well as works on Professor Michael Levin. He don't say that it's consciousness, but he take another term, the technical approach to mind everywhere. He proposes it, where he talks about intelligent behaviors in organisms. So here, this is Professor Michael Levin's work. Here he talks about in a goal-directedness, we can see that goal-directedness is present in the nature. But that is not as intelligent as a living organism. The intelligent life actually will, if there is a hindrance, it finds a way to reach the goal. And this can be individualistic or as a collective behavior. This is very, very important. The collectivistic behavior, even human or any social animal, the individualistic behavior and collective intelligence, that's where the importance of culture comes in. So the collective behavior, how the cultures are there, that consciousness or their decision making is different. We can learn a lot from there. So then the question comes: are artificial intelligence artificial intelligence are also conscious? Can we say that? Okay, this is again a question. We don't know where AI is going to take. We have no clue. But one thing is sure, the molecular complexity in AI is not as complex because the number of elements is similar. It's not, for example, my body is made up of around 30 to 36 elements. are the physical components of AI is made up of that. Definitely information passing is complex. The feed forward interactions are present, but what about the complexity in the elements? Do they matter is another thing. Okay, there is a famous sentence actually, mind and matter, does it matter? So as per this complexity of the atomic level, does it matter? We have no clue unless we really understand this. So how consciousness, is consciousness different from cognition? Okay, that is another. That's why many of the time people prefer to use these terms, animal sentience or cellular cognition or intelligence, extracellular intelligence, etc., instead of referring this as consciousness per se. But I don't want to negate the fact that there is subjective experience. So either any of these two possibilities are there in front of us. There is subjective experience or qualia, subjective experience that we all have, or similar to AST theory, the attention schema theory by Professor Gaziano, that there is no subjective experience. Any of these two are true. Okay, if subjective experience, what is causing that? That's the question. So that led me to search for this dimensions of consciousness in organism. All the three words are difficult. Dimensions, consciousness, and organism. That's why I need to mention in what sense I'm using it this. So dimensions means one here, it's not the 2-dimension or 3-dimension or 11-dimension I'm mentioning. I'm mentioning dimension in the meaning that one of the element or factors making up the complete personality or entity. So in this meaning, I'm using the dimension. Next is organism. Again, a debatable term. What is an organism? Till which level we call something as organism or living? Is it the cells, or can we call this as cell as an organism, a bacterial cell organism, or a virus as an organism? A virion, the virus when it's outside, it's a spore kind of. Can we call the spore as, or the virion as an organism, or something quite strange like prions? Prions, I don't know, you might have heard? Yeah, prions, which are like proteins which which is causing a lot of diseases in the human, and prion-like proteins are there. So this prions they are just proteins actually, but it is twisted. It's a little bit away from the normal condition, and these prions can make other prions which who are in contact with as the same like this, okay, to behave in a different manner. So what makes it? Here I like to use the term mentioned by the functional. So here any organism means which is having a physiological unit and which has homeostasis, metabolism, growth, physiological adaptation, all these things. So I like to use this definition of organism, which is referred from this paper. An organism is a complex, dynamic, self-organizing, interacting system which is able to physiologically respond to changes in environmental condition by adjusting internal and external process. This is the term I refers. And consciousness, coming to consciousness, it's quite difficult to find a uniform definition in consciousness because all theories give different definitions, and definition again, in which sense you mean consciousness? Is it the consciousness in the creature consciousness or state consciousness, or is it the meaning of consciousness as an entity, or again dictionary definitions vary. Again, this is a problem with definition, I guess. I was just going through the Stanford encyclopedia for definitions, and I noticed that definition itself can be made various use of this. Yes. So to state my theories are more aligned with this group, materialism, and the phylogenetic origin of consciousness. This is where my understanding of consciousness. I don't want to give a definition of consciousness and scare you. I'm not yet knowledgeable to give you a definition of consciousness. And this talk doesn't explain what is consciousness and why consciousness is present, as Sir was mentioning. Why question is very difficult to tackle, even if we know that what is and how it's why is very difficult, and this is not giving anything. But now what I am going to do is a minimum dimensions of consciousness present in all organisms. Can we apply that? This is acceptable or applicable to any living active organism. And an organism means it can be from a cell, which is a transient dynamic system, to any large organism. Okay, so cognition and consciousness, we'll see that. Okay, so living organism in this meaning, and it is similar to Professor Carl Friston's work about how internal sensory states and external sensory states are integrated, and it produces an active state. Based on that, I would like to see the cell as a network of molecules. This molecular network is transient and it is dynamic. It encodes information and this information can be utilized. Second is this: any change that happens to the system can keep the memory of it. Based on that new memory, it will react. Okay, so this memory is very, very important here. Any network, it is able to adapt to that. This network is able to adapt to the environment, and that memory will be encoded for later use. So this is the ability of this. So it's a transient dynamic network, and it can be in the DNA level or in protein level, and which has ability to detect information from external environment or from the internal environment, and can give a response to the internal environment or to the external environment. So first one we were going to discuss is state of the organism. I think you might have seen the state versus awareness. There's two dimensions. This is a very famous pictorial representation of consciousness from two dimensions: the wakefulness and awareness. So we can see that the vegetative state, minimally conscious state, are having higher wakefulness but low conscious awareness. But REM sleep, lucid dream have very high awareness, but wakefulness is very low. So this is a very useful two-dimensional picture for explaining consciousness. This is the state. The first dimension is state. Why I mentioned state is the state sets the pace for whatever is going to happen next. So state of the organism. For example, in a cell, is it in the dividing state, or is it in the highly metabolic state, or is it in the spore state? Is it in a so that state will decide how it responds to the environment actually. So similarly like this, if I am sleeping, okay, and if I am sleeping, the sensory response is different. Until unless there is a high sensory input which activate my sense organ, sensory cortex, I will not respond towards it. So the strength of the stimulus, input stimulus, should be strong enough to elicit a response inside. Same like this. The state will cause state is the first dimension. Next is awareness. Okay, here the organism has ability to aware about what happens in the external environment or internal. Here awareness is in two different meaning. One is that it's a self-awareness. Second is non-self discrimination. Okay, so here self-awareness means awareness to the internal environments as well as the external environment. So here this is a picture of phototaxis in cyanobacteria, a bacteria which can detect light. So this bacteria, what happens is when a light source is being shown, this bacteria can move towards this light. It utilizes this photosynthesis. So here this bacteria is detecting the light, and a small group is moving towards the surface, and it's moving close to the light source. Okay, this indicates that the bacteria become aware about a stimuli, external stimuli, and it responds to it. There's no magic actually. It's actually all molecular networks. Okay. So this is important. The awareness of the state of the organism and availability of the information. This is where it's leading into next. Okay. So next one is self, non-self discrimination. This is important. I know who I am. Okay. Some network in me tells me that this is me. Okay. So what is that? Can it become altered? Yes, we can. We have dissociative identity disorder. One of my PhD scholars doing a work on dissociative disorders, and we have a very curious case of a dissociative identity disorder with more than 30 cells. Okay, and some of the cells are unaware about the presence of the other self. Similar like that in bacteria. This small bacteria. This is a very good experiment. Okay, two bacteria which are sibling colonies. That means then 99.99% of the genome is same. It's from the same droplet they made two of these colonies. Okay, so it's the same thing, same one drop put here, another drop, and from this inoculation they develop into a colony. Okay, within 72 hours we can see that the two colonies are producing antibiotics to kill each other. There is sibling rivalry is going on. Okay, so the one bacteria is producing antibiotic to kill other bacteria, and this bacteria is producing antibiotic to kill this bacteria. Okay, it is differentiating from the next self. Okay, so this is it shows that there is self, non-self discrimination, and it is present in all our cells. That's what the principle behind organ rejection. That's why we take a lot of medicines when we have transplantation, etc. Okay, so state and awareness. Next is memory. This is very important. Encoding of information. Information per se is very, very inclusive, very interesting. Same like consciousness. Somewhere information is also very important. So here, encoding of this memory is very curious and very interesting actually. We have very long-term memory. What will be your oldest memory? Probably when you were 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, yeah, you had such memories, right? But you know something, proteins in our body, in majority of the proteins in the synapses, it gets changed in every 3 to 5 days. This is called as molecular turnover. Okay, this molecular turnover means every proteins actually undergoes a degradation. It's a maintenance work actually. So imagine this wall. Every brick by brick I'm removing. Okay, one brick I removed one day and put a new brick. This brick I removed one day and put a new brick. Like that, the entire wall get refurbished within a month. But the wall is still there. That's what is happening with memory. So where is actually memory stored? So the works by Eric Kandel and others, they have shown that a prion-like proteins are present to do this maintenance. Apart from that, recent works has come up which talks about that the protein phosphorylation stays. For example, here CAM kinase, the CAM kinase will get replaced. This protein will get replaced, but the phosphorylation will be transferred to the next one. So the number of phosphorylated proteins remain the same even though the entire molecules are replaced. Okay, so it's not that when you had the first memory, the same molecules are staying with you now also. The molecules replace, but the connection remain intact. And you keep remembering that causes the long-term potentiation. Can we see such kind of memory in bacteria? Yes, bacteria have genomic memory. Genomic memory is present. Protein memory is, the epigenomic memory is present. Epigenomic means beyond the genome. For example, a lab rat who have never come across with a cat but still will be fear about cat smell. How did that memory go transferred? It's because of some of the works which say that it's because of the epigenetic. And such in the proteins, such memory encoding, methylation of proteins itself. For example, if I give a bacteria in my colon, in the natural environment, they behave really different compared to the laboratory system. If I give glucose, then I give galactose, then after a period again I give the bacteria glucose, again I give galactose, then next it will assume or it will predict that next is going to be the galactose and it will prepare. Okay, this is very important, that it is having ability to predict and prepare and anticipate. This anticipation is a property of intelligent behavior, and that's present with the lower organ. So next is attention. What is attention? William James famously told, everybody knows what attention is, but actually even after Professor Narayan's work, yesterday's lecture is mostly in attention, and we still, neuroscientists, cognitive scientists, everybody is working a lot on attention, because we still don't know what attention is. No one knows what attention is. There's a recent paper came up. It's a very good read actually. So we have some idea about the brain region responsible for attention. For example, there is orientation towards a signal. Is it top down or a bottom up attention, or how long you are able to hold that attention? Executive control, focused is it a moment to moment changing attention, or are you able to sustain attention for a long period of time? So here we have some idea about the neural network, but it is not final. We can't completely pinpoint and say that who is attending to. How can we have attention change? For example, under every one cognitive process, there may be thousands of unconscious process that is going on. If one conscious process happening in the brain, for example, now you are listening to my lecture. Actually, thousands of unconscious process networks are already active. Okay, so this, we are not becoming active about it. So what make you to pay attention to that one task? Now if I ask you to pay attention to the how you place your leg, okay, how is the muscle, is it relaxed or constricted stage? Now you will pay attention to that. This is where the attention is getting, So organism, if you see, organism is also able to detect the presence of the environment. With the same example which I mentioned, the presence of the light. See, the organism, the cyanobacteria is able to hold that attention. The entire colony is able to hold the attention for a large span of time. See, 49 hours for bacteria is a long time. Okay, it's not a small time. How long we are able to pay attention to actually? It's a question, right? Especially the present generation, they get bored with you. So yeah. So this another example. See, extracellular ATP. That how long I have? 10 minutes. Yeah, quickly try to. So extracellular ATP, that is a marker of any infection in a body. The bacteria will detect this extracellular ATP, and some bacteria will adapt towards, or they anticipate and will prepare themselves to adapt towards that infection. Some during our infection time, when we get an infection, the other bacteria also respond towards it. Either they become more virulent or less virulent. So with this, we will move on to perception. Perception here, I would like to include sensation, unity, temporospatial unity of sensation, and subjective experience and qualia together under perception. This is Van Gogh's painting, the bedroom. Somehow I have noticed that Van Gogh's paintings on nature will look realistic. But when it comes to buildings and room, it looked less realistic. What has happened? How he was perceiving it? Some says that he had a yellow color, he had an affinity to yellow color, probably because he was... So how the subjective experience of a person, okay, this subjective experience can be seen with... we can't study the subjective experience, definitely. This is called as a irreducibility of consciousness. My subjective experience, mine. It cannot be transferred to you. Same like that, even if there is an interspecies irreducibility, then definitely intraspecies irreducibility is there. I won't know that what is the subjective experience. But from experiments, we can know that the bacteria is having ability to perceive and ability to have temporospatial unity. And next one is action. I would like to include action in dimensions of consciousness because there is a volition actually. And this volition may not be always, it's not deterministic. Even though we know that there are networks, it's not completely deterministic. If you go deep inside the neuronal connection, you will find channel dynamics. And the channel dynamics, the number of sodium atom or potassium or calcium that entered, how the cell was, whether it was near to the endoplasmic reticulum or not, what is the state of the cell that time, that changes whether the neuron fire or not. So the volition or initiation of movement is not completely deterministic. It's more complicated, it's more stochastic, we can say. Neurons can fire spontaneously. In some cases, some receptors are there which activates this. So this is a very good work from Daniel Wolpert. Basically, my PhD was in movement neuroscience. So I have come across with his work. It's excellent works which talk about what is causing that movement actually, initiation of movement, decision making. How we have multiple choices. But we take a particular decision. What makes that person to take the decision? It's based on the network actually, based on the experience. As Professor Briggs says, it's a network that had led to that. That memory was set, and that memory has led to taking the decision to the next level. So this, we have a lot of understanding on movement in both the lower organisms and higher organism. We have movement in studies about movement in quantum, and I'm not going too much into. This is our paper related to decision making in bacteria, published along with Professor Mathew. That here I would like to state this, that multiple parallel pathways to execute the same function is present. Multiple pathways. For example, I can hold this like this. I can hold this like this. Okay. Multiple possibilities are there. How I am holding this. Okay. But these pathways are active. Parallel pathways are already present in my network. Based on my experience, if the input, if a ball comes in this direction, I know that I have to hit in this direction for the ball to go there. So these pathways are present, but at the same time brain is prepared. It already have the pathways because of learning actually. The first time when we were using baton ball, we were not that good, but this provides the flexibility. So the range of possible responses or output possibilities, this determine the intelligent behavior, and it can vary in different species. This is what makes the human or motile organisms different from plants. Plants, the output is the similar kind of dopamine, similar kind of neurotransmitter, that kind of chemicals are present. All the molecular mechanism in plants are similar to other organism, but output is restricted. The possibilities of output is restricted here. So here it indicates that not only the complexity of network matters, but the presence of multiple output possibility. This is what happens in the quadriplegic condition, the locked-in syndrome. They are aware about the input, but they can't send any output. So imagine the world, everybody, some virus infection like COVID, let it not happen, but imagine the condition, like everybody had some viral infection, everybody become quadriplegic. How the world will be? We will be aware about the situation, but all the senses are intact, all our memories are intact, but we are not able to respond. So from an outside observer, how they feel that? So this is not the first time that someone talk about dimensions in organism. The very good work by Birch et al. And he talks about 5 actually. These 2 can be together. So 5 dimensions of consciousness. But he talked mostly from the perspective of perception. Okay, the richness, unity, temporality, selfhood. Later. Here I have mentioned all this. Later discoveries are also there that talks about dimensions to experience of self, sensory experience and evaluative experiences. But I would like to include the state and awareness as a part of it. That's how this model has come up. That consciousness and cognition both are could be matter dependent. I doesn't want to say that it's electron or atomic level we are able to pinpoint, but in the future we will definitely find out what is this. Why we are able to say this? Because lesion studies are there. You alter that network, there is an effect. You alter the network, there is an effect. I can prime you. I can use some words and prime you now. So this means that it is connected to matter. You can't remove matter away from that. But that matter, maybe something more are there to yet to understand. Maybe from quantum physics discoveries, we will be able to get more information. So in conclusion, we need to focus more on studies on, we need to fund more on basic research on quantum physics and particle physics to understand very nature of consciousness, as that you mentioned. This is where I believe that fund should be provided for such vast variety of studies. With this, I would like to thank this video. I'll be able to play. That is during thanking time, you can observe this. This is a small tetracade riding a nematode. It's a small organism, called microscopic organism. I would like to thank the organizers, Bhaktivedanta Institute and School of Science and Humanities, Social Science and Humanities, IIT, for inviting me to give you this lecture. I would like to thank my organization, Christ University, and my Professor Mathew, and everyone for your patient listening, and God Almighty.
That was a wonderful survey of the field and your own personal work, so thank you very much. I suppose what we're all grasping for is some sort of quantitative measure, because we're aware of these different degrees of consciousness. Can we measure them? What progress is being made towards that? Or if you go 2 slides back with your 6 dimensions on the 2 slides back, if we haven't got a if we haven't got a quantitative measurement of consciousness itself, what about those 6 aspects of consciousness? How are we progressing towards anything quantitative and measurable with units?
Yes, we have a lot of studies done on neuroscience. We know that what are the major networks which is causing the sleep, different stages of sleep, dream. All the studies are present, but everything has been looked differently. Like attention has been looked differently, and consciousness, sometimes we say that attention and consciousness are like sister processes. So state, perception, awareness, attention, action, memory, about organisms, it has been well studied. Of human, it is well studied. But together to perceive it as a network, and if the result of the network, sometimes it is lacking. And we need to do such studies in bacteria to understand further actually how these molecular networks are interconnected, and the same network, how it take part in state, determining the state, how it determines the molecular networks, how it determines the attention, etc. So presently I am doing my work on 3 different aspects. One is I am doing some studies on transpersonal meditative studies in Buddhist meditators, long-term meditators, where I am looking into synchrony between neuronal interaction between two meditators, neuronal synchrony, hyperscanning studies. Second, I'm doing my studies on, my PhD scholar is working on dissociative disorder. So from that perspective, but I am yet to establish a lab in bacterial studies. I'm interested to do that. We have a little bit of microbiology facility in our campus, and I hope that I want to study phototaxis in cyanobacteria. Probably during that time I'll be able to study all these things together. That is what you meant, right? Studying all this.
I was actually asking what units we have. To what extent can we make any of these quantitative? And if so, what units do we measure them in?
It is definitely the ligand-receptor interaction, ultimately. That, for example, the ionic concentration inside a neuron, that changes the channel dynamics. So that is one way.
That's
That
quantitative.
yes, quantitative. So motile bacteria, we have flagella motor, the phosphorylation of it we can study. That is quantitative. The phosphorylation of certain proteins or motility we can study. That is quantitative. We can assess that.
So what about these 6 properties here?
Each one, if I say state, starting with state, which state it is, we know that with the help of presence of phosphorylation of certain proteins. Okay, this, if it is there or in sleep or in wake, how the change, what is the difference? It's there in the brainstem neurons, how it fire, the thalamocortical, the connections, how it changes. Similar like that in bacteria, what is corresponding towards that. So everything can be pointed to a measurable quantity actually, but it's in the molecular sense. One thing we can't measure is the subjective experience, definitely. Yes.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, does anyone else have any questions? Yeah, please.
Just one question follows his question.
Yes.
You are using the term conscious field, okay? From very beginning.
Conscious?
It's field.
Field, I don't want.
Field, yeah, from very beginning. Yes. Can you remember it? Conscious field is a mathematical structure, or it is a kind of philosophical or metaphorical idea you are using here?
Consciousness.
Actually, it creates very big problem.
Yes,
In
that's right.
quantitative studies.
Yes.
Okay.
The problem.
And second thing,
Yes,
the
yes,
last
yes.
question. Similarly, you are not very certain about definition of consciousness. You are saying that actually very difficult to consciousness, and simultaneously you are defining internal awareness and external awareness, self-awareness in the slide. Actually, on the slide you are discussing internal awareness and external awareness. Internal awareness is actually objective or subjective? Yes, no question. Just yes or no.
For me, it can become subjective, but majority of it is we are not aware about it. See, for me to move, me to talk, actually, it is not only the motor neocortex that fire, motor cortex neurons that connect the neuron to my mouth and tongue. This region, not only that fire, it's not only that nerves that fire, but for that neuron to fire, there is premotor cortex, there is prefrontal cortex, which receive input, and based on the language, I make the changes. So the information from the parietal cortex, information from the temporal cortex, the memory of these words to choose, that comes from this hypothalamic region. So it's a large network of neurons underlie the process, and I become aware about this talking only when I have sensory feedback from that.
So why your quantitative studies is not based on information structure? You can give better explanation, very real explanation about the system on the basis of information structure.
Information structure means I am not like the flow of information.
Quantitative.
Yes, we can quantify this. It's a property of the network. And one thing what we don't know is the subjective experience. How exactly is that? That we don't know about. For example, enzymes. How are enzymes able to efficiently do that catalytic activity? We yet are unable to understand. There is something called as quantum biology, which is a big field about how efficient energy transfer happens in the enzyme. So we like Vivekananda, Swami Vivekananda.
Even your idea about semantic, conscious field arises another question, conscious space. It is also very difficult to define in on your ideology, that hypothesis that you are following. It's very tough.
Consciousness as a big field you are telling. everything is interconnected. There is no, yes.
But
Yes.
when you are going to enter into the field,
Yes.
so most of people think it is a mathematical structure. And
It is mathematics. Ultimately, everything is mathematics.
And
Yes.
ultimately it is in a quantitative.
It is quantitatively
And
measurable.
your ideology is absolutely different from that mathematical system.
No, it's because of the complexity of the proteins. I'm not going into the mathematics of this. See, it's all mathematics actually. All these proteins interaction. There is a big field called as bioinformatics, which talk about what is the interaction between each of these molecules. Madam will be, Madam is a biologist actually. She'll be able to understand this. Each of this molecule interaction. We know the strength of the interaction, how long it will stay connected, but sometimes it can vary. That's where it is crazy actually. It's not always all the proteins follow like a robot kind of. Some small variations, like the butterfly effect, it is present. Small variation in that can cause a large variation later. So ultimately, everything is mathematics. I am.
So see, you want in one of your previous slides,
Yes.
you showed us that there are already 350 theories
Yes.
on the state of consciousness.
Yes.
So in that sense, it is understandable that she is a bit ambivalent or uncertain about the definition of consciousness, because there are 350 theories already present there. So she is okay. I mean, we can. So okay. So I have two basic questions.
Yes.
So you in one slide you said that you studied the rats during your PhD research also.
Yes.
So do the rats also show this kind of behavior of consciousness?
Like if you have, do you have interacted with dog? Same manner they interact. When I put my hand, I remember they used to come identify me.
So they show agency, they show subordination to the local units, they show cooperation.
Yes. They have
all the
large
characteristics
cooperation. Yes, they are social animals. They have large social behavior. Definitely. And consciousness. Beginning of my research, I used to think that consciousness is simple definition. Like consciousness is something that you left when you were sleeping and got to when you wake up. But that's absolutely not correct. When you're sleeping also, actually the brain networks are functioning. What about that? Okay.
You can be in a thoughtless state if you're not thinking. I will want this.
Yes, that time, that is called as, yes, one of my research is related to that. Work is going on, I think, hope it will. It's called as Shunyata, or in transpersonal studies, that absolute absence of self-identification. There is no self. There is no identification, awareness of time. No awareness of time, no awareness of self. Still the awareness, some other awareness will come. Possibly because if we do a lot more in this, okay, we may understand that some of these proteins are responding to a special kind of signal we are yet to discover. And that awareness is extremely important. For example, 1 minute, I'll just finish. This meditators, yesterday sir was talking about. Meditators, recent study from, it's a meta study which talks about the base of it, the base or the network, default mode network of meditators and non-meditators vary. That is a set, that is state. The state meditators, long-term meditators are in. It is different. Based on that, how they respond to stimulus will come. And the base itself is different. It's not comparable. And as the years pass, for example, the Buddhist meditators, 20 years, 30 years, when they have the meditative experience, the kind of awareness they have is totally different from us.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Wonderful talk. So we have talked about memory and subjective experience. So can we say they are not both the same? Like as soon as we have memory, we have subjective experience.
All these things are connected. All of it is connected. It's just the property of the network. It is not that subjective experiences we experience. It is like the organism is experiencing the subjective experience of a particular network. That doesn't mean that the other subjective experience is present or absent. For a moment, in that spatio-temporal dimension, I am able to experience a particular network. That too only in the aware state. That state matters there. But it doesn't mean that the other subjective experiences are absent.
So there is, I think, last.
So, your study is largely focused on cellular level or molecular level consciousness. If you say that cellular level consciousness is as same as bodily level of consciousness, microorganism engages in act of creative imagination? Do they become victim of our hallucination, or can say delusion? Do they engages in this kind of
Yes, we have this question like, are there a crow who suddenly felt that it's we call that saint crow kind of. It suddenly felt that is different from the other crows. But how do we know that? Okay, in bacteria we can see colony behaviors. Very beautiful colony behaviors is what. For single bacteria, studying single bacteria is difficult. So what we can observe is colony behavior. They are having bed hedging, something called as bed hedging. Like if there is no proper food to that culture, some of it suddenly will become. They will have multiple options, especially Bacillus subtilis. It's a very famous model organism. So this bacteria, some of it will die itself, become food for others. Some of it will utilize that food, and some of it only will become spore forming. Some of it will become utilize that and encode that DNA or plasmid and start to keep that memory intact. So such large behaviors we can observe. But when you mentioned that hallucination, imagination and hallucination, what is hallucination actually? It's a spontaneous activity of a neuron when a stimulus is not actually present.
Exactly.
Okay, so receptors, so here in that sense I can say receptors can get open up without a stimulus being present. Without me showing the light, if the cyanobacteria move towards, that is present. They will explore without even a signal. Sometimes they explore in the nature sometimes. That possibility is there, but that is hallucination understood. You have to view the hallucination from the neuroscience perspective. Hallucination is not something that it's a spontaneous activity of neuron. If I am hallucinating, I can see a knife in this air. Yes.
Ma'am, I have a question. Is consciousness is the cause of quantum collapse?
Quantum physics, I am not that. You can ask Professor Mathew this question. I think he will be the best person to. I believe that the consciousness may have something deep inside, and the current model of standard model of atom probably will further. We'll have to go further, and advancement in quantum physics might show that what is actually causing this. Because
or any another quantum phenomenon to be explained.
I'm not a quantum physics expert. I'm very sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am, for this insightful and very interesting presentation on animals and seals.
Thank you. Thank you for being a wonderful audience and be patient.